Have you ever noticed that the moment you finally unclench your grip on the narcissist, something deep inside begins to shift? It's like walking out of a storm that threatened to sweep you away. At first, your knees may shake, your chest may feel hollow. But what follows is more powerful than you dared to believe. Because letting go of the narcissist isn't just about releasing someone destructive, it's about reclaiming the life that was always meant to be yours. For years, the narcissist whispered a lie into your soul, that without their approval, you'd fall apart. That without their shadow hovering, you'd never find your footing. But the instant you release that grip, you discover a secret they hoped you'd never learn. Your strength doesn't come from them. It never did. It rises from within you, a strength they spent every waking hour trying to bury. At first, there's silence, and that silence may feel like an empty room. But silence is not a void, it's a sanctuary. It's the place where your own voice finally grows louder, where your thoughts untangle, where your heart remembers what it means to beat for you and not for someone else's validation. The narcissist may claw at the edges, trying to pull you back with guilt, fear, or sweet manipulation. Yet once your eyes open, those chains lose their power. Their grip weakens as your spirit stands taller. You laugh again without fear. You dream again without ridicule. You love again, starting with yourself. What you thought was the breaking point becomes the moment of your rebirth. Freedom from emotional chains. When you cut ties with a narcissist, the first gift you receive is freedom from emotional bondage. For so long, you didn't even realize how entangled you were. Narcissists don't come with obvious shackles. They weave ropes made of gaslighting, guilt, and cycles of empty praise and crushing devaluation. Over time, you forget who you are. You second-guess every decision. You doubt your worth. You start to believe that reality itself bends around their moods. And when you finally step away, at first, it feels terrifying, like losing your anchor. But wasn't that anchor the very thing dragging you under? With each day, the weight begins to lift. You no longer wake up dreading sharp criticism, unpredictable tempers, or the sinking fear that nothing you do will ever measure up. The absence of their voice, whether cruel or deceptively sweet, creates a silence you may not recognize at first. But that silence is where freedom lives. Freedom looks like trusting your own thoughts again. It looks like making choices without fear of retaliation. It looks like smiling without bracing for punishment. Slowly, you remember life before the narcissist entered your world. But even more powerful, you realize you've been changed. You are no longer naive. You are stronger now because you know what chains feel like, and you've sworn never to wear them again. Yes, the narcissist may return with promises, apologies, even fury, anything to restore their control. But once you've tasted freedom, the lie unravels. Their power was never in who they were, but in what you allowed. And once you decide differently, the chains fall away. You walk forward, perhaps unsteady at first, but freer than you've ever been. The power of silence after letting go. Many underestimate the power of silence. After living under the constant roar of accusations, manipulations, and endless justifications, silence feels unnatural, even frightening. But silence is not emptiness, it is sacred ground. It is where you rediscover yourself. When entangled with a narcissist, your thoughts are never your own. You rehearse conversations, replay their words, anticipate explosions. The noise of their control fills your mind until your own instincts are smothered. But once you step away, silence gives you clarity. Suddenly, you don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to brace for chaos. You can simply be. In that silence, the fog begins to lift. You realize that not every pause means punishment. Not every quiet moment demands an explanation. The absence of their noise becomes the soil where self-love and respect grow. And over time, the voice inside your head, the one that once echoed with their cruelty, shifts. It becomes gentler, kinder, honest. Silence, then, becomes the training ground of strength. The narcissist may try to invade it with calls, texts, or provocations, but every time you honor the silence, you declare, "My peace matters more than their chaos." What once felt like emptiness becomes peace. That peace births strength. That strength gives rise to clarity. And clarity lays the foundation of a new life, one where you are no longer bound, no longer silenced, no longer small. Silence is not punishment. It is a gift. It is the womb of transformation where the old self fades and the new self rises, stronger, freer, more radiant than ever before. Have you noticed what happens when you finally let go of the narcissist? One of the most startling revelations is this: the power you once thought was unshakable vanishes like smoke in the wind. While you were entangled in their web, it felt as if they held the strings to your heart, your mind, even your very reality. But here's the truth: what they carried was never power of their own. It was power borrowed, and it was borrowed from you. The narcissist survives on reaction. Their strength feeds off your engagement, your explanations, your need to make peace. Every time you answer their accusations or try to soothe their storms, you handed over energy that belonged to you. But the moment you stop feeding the fire, it dies out. Without your responses, their words echo hollow. Without your presence, their stage grows empty. What once seemed like dominance crumbles when you realize they could only control you if you agreed to play their game. When you cut ties, they may thrash like a drowning figure, rage, smear campaigns, false apologies, desperate attempts to pull you back. But the foundation of their control collapses because it depended entirely on your willingness to stand in their orbit. And once you step away, the orbit breaks. Suddenly you see it. They were never the giant towering over your life. They only looked large because you kept handing them the keys to your peace. Now the keys are back in your hands. That realization is liberating. You begin to look back and see the patterns. How often you bent yourself to fit their shifting demands. How often you questioned your worth to buy a moment of false calm. And then it dawns on you. If you once gave away that much power, you can also take it back. That awareness becomes a turning point. You're no longer defined by what they tried to dictate. Their voice no longer sets your value. Their anger no longer decides your choices. Their games lose their sting because you've chosen not to play. And here's the glory of it. Their loss of power is your awakening. You step into a freedom that's unshakable. You begin to walk lighter, breathe deeper, and stand taller. The shadow that hovered over your life dissolves. What once belonged to them returns home to you, your peace, your joy, your identity. Rediscovering your true identity. Letting go of the narcissist does more than free you. It allows you to rediscover who you really are. For so long, their manipulation pressed you down, shaping your world into something smaller, dimmer, less alive. They conditioned you to doubt your feelings, to silence your dreams, to look at yourself through their warped mirror. Piece by piece, you shrank. The person you once were seemed buried beneath layers of fear and distortion. But when you release them, the ground shifts. At first, it may feel like staring at a blank canvas. Questions rise. Who am I now? What do I even believe in? What makes my heart come alive? These questions can feel overwhelming, but they are not a burden. They are an invitation. For the first time in a long time, you have space to answer honestly, without fear of someone looming over your shoulder ready to mock or dismiss your truth. Rediscovery doesn't always come in grand gestures. It often begins in quiet ways. Picking up a hobby you abandoned, reconnecting with friends who remind you of who you used to be, exploring new passions simply because you can. Each step, though small, stitches together the tapestry of your authentic self. And here's the miracle. You don't return to who you were before. You become someone stronger. The scars you carry are not signs of weakness. They are markers of survival. They remind you of your courage, your endurance, your ability to rise. Rediscovering your identity is about embracing those scars and weaving them into a self no longer defined by pain but by growth. As you reclaim your identity, your voice returns too. You stop apologizing for your opinions. You stop minimizing your feelings. You learn to trust your instincts again. You stand firm, not because you're trying to prove something, but because you've remembered that your worth doesn't need proof. The identity that emerges is not fragile. It is rooted, grounded, unshakable. It is a self that knows its worth, remembers its strength, and refuses to shrink again. And that act of rediscovery becomes your victory. The narcissist tried to erase you, but every step you take toward yourself is a declaration that they failed. You are no longer defined by their story. You are defined by your own. And in that truth, you are finally free. The return of joy and peace after walking away from the narcissist feels like stumbling into sunlight after years of wandering in shadows. For so long, joy was fleeting, if it appeared at all. Every smile was quickly erased by criticism, every burst of laughter smothered by jealousy, every spark of happiness stolen by their need to dominate the room. Peace seemed impossible because each day was a balancing act, tiptoeing across eggshells, bracing for the next outburst or the cold sting of silence. Anxiety wrapped around your spirit so tightly that even simple pleasures felt out of reach. But when you finally let go, something remarkable begins to unfold. At first, calm feels foreign. You catch yourself waiting for the explosion that never comes, bracing for conflict that never arrives. This is the body remembering chaos. Yet slowly, as the noise fades, you discover what peace really is. That first deep breath without fear, that first night's sleep without dread, these are the earliest signs that healing has begun. Joy returns not as a thunderclap, but as a gentle dawn. It shows up in the small moments, the warmth of morning light, the laughter of a conversation, the comfort of silence that doesn't demand explanation. For the first time in years, your smile isn't shadowed by disapproval. Laughter flows, not as a performance, but as a natural overflow of freedom. Little by little, the sparks of joy collect until they set your life ablaze with hope again. Peace takes root alongside joy. You wake with no one dictating your mood, no storm hovering over your choices. Quiet becomes safe rather than threatening. Rest becomes holy rather than shameful. Peace is the freedom to be unapologetically yourself, knowing your worth isn't borrowed from someone else's approval. And once joy and peace return, they guard your soul. They become the compass pointing you toward what nurtures and away from what drains. You've tasted freedom, and you won't settle for less. What once was stolen has been restored, and that restoration becomes your shield. The narcissist never extinguished your light, they only tried to cover it. Now the covering is gone, and your light grows into a flame that guides your path, not to mere survival, but to a life rich with genuine happiness. Rebirth into your greater purpose. The final transformation is the most profound of all, rebirth into purpose. At first, it may feel like everything has collapsed. The relationship, your sense of security, even your confidence. But what has crumbled are the false walls the narcissist built to keep you small and silent. Their destruction leaves space for something greater, the chance to rebuild on truth. For years, your energy was consumed by survival. Every step was reactionary, every choice shaped to avoid conflict or chase fleeting approval. Dreams were set aside, growth was postponed, purpose lay dormant. But when you let go, the energy once siphoned away returns to your hands. And with it comes the sacred question, what was I created for? At first, the question feels daunting. After being told for so long what you aren't capable of, stepping into your true calling can feel overwhelming. Yet piece by piece, the authentic self begins to surface, the self that is creative, resilient, compassionate, unbreakable. The pain you endured becomes wisdom, and that wisdom finds its expression. Some pour it into helping others walk the same road. Others channel it into art, writing, or leadership. Still others pour it into family, career, or community. Purpose doesn't have to be grand in the world's eyes to be mighty in your soul. Rebirth into purpose also means the past no longer defines you. The scars remain, but they no longer speak of shame, they testify of survival. Your story shifts from one of brokenness to one of power. What was once a narrative of victimhood becomes a declaration of strength. You no longer live to prove your worth. You live aligned with it. And this rebirth doesn't stop with you. It radiates outward. As you rise into your purpose, others see the light in your eyes, the freedom in your step. Your very existence becomes a testimony that healing is possible, that darkness doesn't have the final word, that broken places can give birth to greatness. This is the beauty of release. Letting go of the narcissist isn't just an ending, it is a beginning. It is stepping into a life of significance, of alignment, of destiny fulfilled. It is the miracle of rebirth, renewed, restored, and ready to live the life that was always waiting for you.